Welcome to Pivot Masterclass. This is the introduction. My name is Kalinda Truffo. I am the author of Pivot from BS. I know what you are thinking, but I actually mean belief systems. You see, I went through a really tough health period where I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder and panic attacks. And I spent decades being under the grips until one day I was able to really detect what the cause of my anxiety and my panic attacks were. And in that process, I really understood how to work with thought, how to work with beliefs, and most importantly, how to escape the grips when they're destructive rather than constructive. So I have put together a program. I am happy to report I did beat anxiety disorder naturally in 2012. I haven't had a panic attack or an anxiety attack since. Without further ado, let's get started. It is important to implement. It's one thing to listen, another to do. Everything begins with an idea. Step one is to decide. I show clients this pyramid. And the reason I do that is because it is a really good description of the steps that we really need to focus on from a high level. It's the big zoom all the way out perspective in order to figure out the steps that need to be focused on to achieve goals. Now, you'll see that the biggest layer on the bottom here is decide. And a lot of times it is really difficult for people to decide because there's so many other factors coming into play. There's overwhelm if you're in survival mode, and all the responsibilities that are weighing heavy. And have you ever tried to do something and then all of a sudden everybody needs you all at the same time? It's distraction. Or you really get started and then you think, oh man, I forgot to do that. You take off and you have to start over. And so something that takes you 20 minutes doesn't get completed throughout the day because of distraction. I think we've all been there. The other thing that can impact a decision is just not feeling motivated. That's hard when you just don't feel like it. You know that there's something, but you don't know what that you really want to do, and your heart, it is just really not connected to anything. Have you been there? It takes some work in order to be able to make a decision in that kind of environment. Deciding is the hardest part, but all that you need is an idea, and you need something to light that spark in your heart, and so that it fires you up and really keeps you connected to that goal. So finding that fire, making that decision, it's really step one in anything that you do. What are you focused on? Now, everybody talks about a balanced life, these areas that we need perfect balance. Good luck with that. I wish you the best. In order to really achieve something, you have to focus on one thing at a time. I'm not saying totally neglect the others, but what I am saying is pinpoint what it is that you really want and focus on it with intent until you achieve it. And when you do that, everything else seems to fall in place. So when we make a plan, I mean, obviously we don't want to derail all the other parts, but we do want to have the majority of the focus on one thing, and so it gets fixed. And the one thing that I recommend that you really, really focus on is if you achieve that one thing, everything else is going to be okay. So what one thing, if you knew you achieved it, everything, everyone, and all things would be okay. That is what I really want you to concentrate on in order to set your goal and your focus on the right place. That might take some time. Is it the career? So if the career gets where you want it to be, Are you going to be in your happy place and everything else work out? Or is it going to consume you and you lose everything? There's lots of people that focus on just the career and lose everything else. And there's another necessary side to that, because if you are able to get your career to the place that you want to be, where you have freedom, then everything falls into place. So there's always two sides to everything, but you have to make sure that the end goal has balance. That applies to finances, that applies to health, that applies to home, it applies to relationships, it applies to well-being, and it applies to the legacy. But you do have to know that the one thing that you are going to pick, it has to be something that makes your heart happy. This time, whatever you pick, it has to be something that you love. You can't do this for anybody else. You have to do this because your heart is in it. It gives you joy. You would do it for free. And you need that passion. And so that no matter what happens while you're going for this goal, you can stay the course, because you know when you get to the finish line, everything is going to be okay. So as you're picking that one thing, you have to be sure that it's you that wants it. It's not you doing it because you should. You have to take out that you should. And you can get a little bit closer with that if you are really understanding what you are really trying to do. So, are you doing this to relieve pain? Are you doing it to relieve stress? How about eliminate exhaustion? Increase your vitality, increase motivation, get more energized, or just be happy? No matter what it is that you are trying to achieve, it's because you want to eliminate some sort of pain. So what is that pain? What is it that you are wanting to leave behind? The symptom is usually the circumstance, right? You can blame it on relationships, you can blame it on your career, you can blame it on finances, you can blame it on location, you can blame it on whatever you want. But if you take away those circumstances, what is it that you're really trying to get rid of? Dig a little bit deeper than just the surface. There is a challenge with that. And the challenge is, most times people focus on just the symptom. And it's, I'm tired. And if I had this, then I wouldn't be. Or so caught up in the circumstances of what you don't want that the negative thoughts are overwhelming and all-consuming. Or the heartache, it's the heartache that is so big you can't find the joy. Stress, so much responsibility that you don't have a moment to figure out a solution because you're being pulled in every direction, or the weight of the situation is so heavy you can't think clearly. Anxiety. Now, if you've never had anxiety, I'm here to tell you it sucks. When you can stay present and really focus on the next step, not the consequences of the next 500 steps, you're going to find that you get a little bit closer faster. And it also helps to calm you down a bit. Aches and pains are the other thing that can be really distracting, because it's really hard to think clearly when you're experiencing physical pain. The more you focus on it, the more you fight it, the bigger it seems to get. If you're focused on any of these things, I strongly recommend you just stay still for a moment, breathe, and really try to take your thought into a happy place. Think about what you really want and how you would feel if you achieved that. And I think you're going to get a lot farther than what you expect. When you do make a decision, it has to be an unshakable yes. There's no room for doubt, and there's no room for plan B. When you connect with that decision, It has to be 100%, and so that you can start taking the steps to get it. Most people know when they're not happy or clear on what they don't like, but what they don't know is how to get from where they are to where they want to be. And that situation can be really, really frustrating. In order to be able to move past that, when you are making a decision, it has to be very specific. It can't be just good enough. This isn't a like on Facebook. It has to be very, very specific. Because without being specific, it's kind of like going to the airport and saying, hey, I want to go on a hot holiday. If you want to know how that'll work, go try it. It's about the same thing as putting in an order of I want in life. It's not going to get you very far. It's important to treat life like it is a restaurant, not a buffet. And I hope this picture gives you clarity. So think about this for a second. If you were to go up to this buffet, it's almost overwhelming with options. Are you going to have breakfast? Are you going to have supper? Are you going to have dessert? Are you going to have healthy fruit? Are you going to have veggies? Or what are you going to do? When you're forced to order one thing in a restaurant, you have to make a clear decision of what you want, and you just get what's on your plate. And in life, it's important. You know what? You can go to a buffet. Options are endless. You can pick anything you want. But you have to decide on one plate at a time. Otherwise, it's just too much and you get nowhere. And I hope if I get anything across to you in this entire module, it's that. Make a clear decision. And when making those decisions, it's important to include the numbers, the dates, and your focus. It helps you stay on track. You have to have a finish line. It's not enough just to get started, because think about it. How many times have you participated in a New Year's resolution? How long did it last? Now think about the last time that you actually accomplished something. Was there a deadline? Did you have a clear goal? Anything with a finish line is easier to finish because there's accountability involved. The other thing that's super important is you must be realistic. You have to believe it's possible first. How many times have people gone out to buy lottery tickets and they're like, oh, well, I'll never win. Well, why are you buying the ticket in the first place then? Like, why bother? For a hope and a prayer? And I mean, the odds aren't good anyway. But you have to believe it. Otherwise, it is really not going to happen. And in order to believe it, there has to be something that you can take action on. If you think about this in athletic terms, if you are 50 pounds overweight and you want to be a bikini model, is it possible? Absolutely, it's possible. But it's going to take some work to get there. And it's going to take some lifestyle changes to get there. It's the same thing. It's the absolute same thing in life. You know what? You can think about anything you want, but you have to be willing to make the change. You have to be willing to do the work, and you have to be willing to commit to a plan, because if all that you stop at is the idea without the work, nothing is going to happen. And you have to believe that you can do the work. It has to be possible. Now, it is important to also know it's your job to know what you want. The how is always going to take care of itself. What not how. You also have to know how you want to feel. A lot of people, they get so caught up in their head and their thought that they forget, what is it that you really want to feel? What are you doing this for? Once you have that answer, it's a lot easier to decide. Deciding who do you have to be? What do you want? Where do you want to be? When do you want to accomplish it by? And what is your why? Are some key questions to ask yourself on this journey. Again, most important, the foundation, the piece that takes the most time is definitely decide. Thank you for attending this module today, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next module where we talk about the plan.